we've been told about the decline of local news is only part of the story. Because while headlines continue to warn about news deserts, shrinking newsrooms, and disappearing newspapers, there's another story unfolding, one that doesn't get nearly as much attention. It's a story of a local news company that it's expanding, hiring, launching new sites, entering new communities, and proving that local journalism can still grow in the digital age. Hi, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. This, of course, is E&P Reports, our weekly podcast series that explores the people, ideas, and issues shaping the future of news publishing. And today, we're talking with the people behind that growth and success. Jeff Elgie is the founder and CEO of Village Media. Jeff, it's an honor to have you on the program today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
And I guess I could call you an icon, Richard Gingras, board chair of Village Media, but you've spent decades helping shape the future of digital journalism at Google. And now, of course, Village Media. It's an honor to have you on the show as well, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Mike.
Together, you guys represent a fascinating combination of newsroom innovation, technology, audience strategy, and business sustainability. Let me tell you guys, every time we have Jarvis on this program, he brags on you and mentions something you guys have been doing, and I've been amiss to not have you on the show. So I really think our audience is going to get a lot of this. The question is, can local journalism still grow, especially now? We'll find out more after this.
Hello, my name is Walter Hussman. Our family has been in the news business for over 100 years. Journalism includes two parts, reporting the news and providing opinions. But in recent years, there's been too much opinion appearing in news reporting. This has eroded public trust in news reporting to the lowest level of any U.S. institution. To address this, we started a nonprofit, the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
The Center for Integrity in News Reporting, CFINR, is on a mission to rebuild public trust in journalism, one newsroom and one classroom at a time. We champion the effort to have news organizations and journalism schools create and prominently display their own clear, concise statements of core journalistic values. Learn more by visiting the Center for Integrity in News Reporting site at cfinr.org.
Jeff, I want to start with you. What was the original insight that convinced you almost 13 years ago? This is way before the local digital startups, that local digital news could be a scalable business.
Well, I had the privilege of being associated to a digital-only local startup right here in our hometown and head office of Sault Ste. Marie, which is one of our flagship sites, which is called SiouxToday.com. In those days, so call it 14 years ago, I was running a digital agency, and we had done some work for this company. But they weren't doing well, but they had really built a huge audience up. Everyone in town was talking about them. They weren't talking about the news in the newspaper anymore. They were talking about the news on Sioux Today. So to make a long story short, because I could spend 20 minutes alone telling this story, I sold the agency and then I acquired a majority interest in Sioux Today, and that led to the formation of Village Media. But it was very clear that this was where the audience was going, and in my mind, there had to be a business model that would work long term.
Richard, after decades at Google and across digital media as a whole, what first caught your attention about Village Media, making you want to be part of it?
Oh, simple. When Jeff said in a testimony that he was making before the Canadian Heritage Commission, and I was testifying as well, said that he was in 5 markets and he was profitable. And my eyes lit up. I had been working around the world with publishers in my role at Google, looking for organizations that were innovating and finding success, and he was doing it. So that's what triggered it, was simply that. And I think Jeff underplays a certain element of his experience and wisdom, which is that he did have a digital marketing agency. So he understood digital marketing. And he obviously saw and understood the popularity of Sioux Today in that market. and began to really explore where the opportunities are. And indeed, the opportunities are there. And I'm glad to go into that further as we go through this discussion.
I want you to right now. I'm going to stay with you. What does Village Media understand about local journalism that you think others are missing? We got an audience of news publishers that want to hear what that secret sauce may be.
I think the answer is both simple and complex. We understand the dynamics of disruption, right? In the industry has been disrupted by the internet in many ways, primarily in terms of where do people go for information today. I find that one of the most unfortunate things in my work with the industry is that in periods of disruption, often the victims of that don't step back and look at the market, how it's evolved. They tend to look backward at how they might regain their past rather than looking forward and see how has the market changed, right? And that's what Jeff did. He was looking at how the market changed. It's what we're doing through today as we continue to expand the mission of Village, is keep looking at the environment, how people are behaving, how people are interacting with sources of information, and how do we respond to that with both value for them and opportunity to make the model work.
Jeff, with your permission, I will use that overused quote from hockey player Wayne Gretzky. It sounds like he's saying you know how to skate to where the puck is going. Is that what I'm kind of hearing here? And staying ahead of the curve. But you're in a growth mode now, and so are others. As you likely have, here in the States, you've got legacy media companies now starting digital operations in different cities. We see that down in Louisiana. We see that in Carolina. You're growing. When you enter a community, what signals tell you that the market can support your model and your journalism, sir?
That's a complex question. There's a lot of variables that we look at when we go into a community. So I think the first thing that we look at is, does the community have a sense of its own identity? Did the people in it care about the community and what's going on in the community? And that seems really simple, but that's not often the case in certain markets. So we'll look at that. I mean, demographics are a component of it. Obviously, having a reasonable commercial base is an important component of it. And I think before we go further, I should note that we are not subscription-based at all. We are reach-based and ad-supported. And so having a healthy business climate, is important to us. I think, oddly, competition doesn't necessarily predict our success or lack of success. So a lot of people think that Village just goes into news deserts, and that's not at all the case. In fact, I think many news deserts today exist because the community doesn't care about news and what's going on in it. So we'll look at the media landscape in the sense of digital publishing, but also a publisher that immerses themselves into the local community. And when we talk about Village's model, there's a whole discussion about how we do that. But the competitive landscape is really only a small component of that. It really is that care, that connection to community.
In fact, Mike, if I can build on that for a second.
Please.
Because when I met Jeff, almost 12 years ago, after that testimony, we had a virtual meeting. And the first question I asked him was, how do you identify the markets you go into? And what I was expecting was a long economic analysis, and that wasn't it. What he gave me was just what he gave you. Looks for communities that have a strong sense of self-identity. Community is the key word. That unlocks two things. One, if you look at people's information needs, a lot of research on this, their information needs are proportionate to physical proximity. They want to know about the community they live in, the neighborhood they live in, not the metropolitan area, not the state, the community. Those are their information needs. Secondly, that unlocks the business opportunity. That's where the advertising opportunity is. Merchants who are looking and businesses who are looking to reach the audiences and the communities they serve. This was said most succinctly to me by an analyst we were briefing in the UK. And we went through our model and he said, now I finally get it. You don't ask your audience to subscribe. You ask the local businesses to subscribe because you give them access to the community and the markets they serve.
So
it's as simple and powerful as that.
You're preaching to a guy that's on your side. I come from the business side, the sales side, and I am completely reach-based, advertiser-driven at E&P. Everything's wide open because in my humble opinion, it's my show and I'm going to pontificate for a second. Every eyeball, every ear is necessary for my advertisers. I want to have, so let me ask you first, Richard, since you come from the wide sphere globally, do you feel that is a big misconception in today's media world? I can just get some reader revenue. I'm going to lock it down. And we brag on places like the Baltimore Banner now that has huge subscription base, but they're only still hitting, maybe if they're lucky, 8, 10%, 12% of the population. Do you feel that media should be more reach-based?
At the local level, absolutely. And I do think that is the largest misconception, without question. And again, I think it's quite unfortunate that that is indeed the case. And I'll just leave it there. I think it's a huge misconception that people don't understand that opportunity at local. Whether that's a community, a self-standing community of 75,000 people like Sault Ste. Marie, or whether that's the large neighborhood in a big city.
Jeff, you're entering the U.S., and I know you're not just Canadian, but you have some of the same issues there. We have it much more here, where we say in the United States now it's more important than ever to bring truth to power. Where are you guys on that enterprise storytelling? Are you truly, when you come into community, not just doing the church supper stuff, but how deep do you go into the news reporting you do, and what is your mission when you're entering a community and doing your storytelling, sir?
Yeah, it's a great question. So maybe I'll back up one quick step and just say that just for better context of Village, that we don't really consider ourselves just a news organization now. We consider ourselves a community impact organization. So when we talk about reach, we think mass audience reach is critical to having impact within a community. So I kind of want to start with that. In terms of journalism, our focus always at the beginning is service journalism. So the first kind of editor reporter's tasks at the beginning are tell the community what's going on about itself. Let's cover the local business openings, the events, the transportation, weather. But then we immediately cover the school boards, the hospital boards, the city council, of course. We never hold ourselves up to be an enterprise or an investigative journalism organization, but we do get into in-depth coverage of all of those types of issues at a community level. I mean, I think if you look at a local market of 50 or 75,000 people, a lot of people associate their perception of investigative journalism is really deeper coverage of things like city council and hospital boards, et cetera. And so that is part of what we do.
All right, so let's, if I may, shift gears to the business side. Jeff, but what advertising revenue streams are your most productive now that are feeding your newsrooms and making you profitable? Can you give us a quick tour of what you're selling and what it looks like?
Yep. So bigger picture context, Village's revenue is, we say roughly 70% direct local sales. So these are local sales teams on the ground in the markets. About 20% is programmatic business coming from agencies, the province of Ontario, et cetera, open auction revenue. And about 10% is a little mix of some voluntary reader contributions, some self-serve classifieds, et cetera. So looking at the big bucket, which is direct local sales, this is where Village has invested a lot of time in thinking, training, product development, technology. And so we have, it goes way beyond your standard, let's sell a display ad beside a piece of content. So we have a proprietary program called our Community Leaders Program, which is a signature program. It's actually a sponsored journalism program versus sponsored content. So we'll take key areas of coverage in a community that often go underserved, and we'll associate a local business with bringing that coverage to the community. So it could be, for example, the local jewelry store underwrites coverage of arts and culture because they know that a lot of their clients like that type of coverage. So that's a signature product. We have something called our Community Hub, which is connected to what we call our Village Gold program. As Richard alluded to earlier, it's a subscription product where you pay a monthly fee. You get a very extensive business listing, a business profile. You can connect your staff bios to it. You can list products, services, events, job postings through a fully contained dashboard and self-serve kind of portal. We then, of course, have display, we have video. We were the first publisher in the world to transact a programmatic guaranteed newsletter advertising deal through Google's exchange. We have a market research product we call Village IQ, which we can sell at local level. And then we have some proprietary ad products that we've built into our platform beyond all of that. So there's a really diverse mix of things that is now growing into events. We're executing dozens of events almost every month across the markets now. So it's a pretty diverse mix of product.
All right, I got to bring this thing home, guys. So I'm going to start with Richard. Jeff, you prepped for this. What's the one major takeaway, Richard, you would give today to someone who is looking to do the same thing? I'm going to be a disruptor. I'm going to go into a city and I'm going to start from scratch and build a local news presence. What advice do you give that person right now, Richard?
First of all, I would make sure I understood at depth the community I was looking to serve. And then I would step back and say, what is my mission in serving this community? Right? I think, as I noted earlier, we make the mistake of looking to recreate the past and not look at the opportunities today in our societies. Not only the opportunities to inform people, but the opportunities to bring them together. Right? Among the most important things we do is how do we bring the community together? That's how our society is breaking down today. We're breaking down into silos because people aren't meeting each other. So what we do is not just inform, bring them together, create opportunities for them to engage, whether it's about their hobbies or whether it's about an issue in the community that they want to engage and help solve. Right? But think big, not small.
Jeff,
that's where the opportunity is.
Jeff, besides saying ditto, how would you answer the same question, sir?
I think Village, it's very much along these lines, but Village makes a point to deeply immerse ourselves in the communities that we're in. So our CARES team, for example, works very closely with nonprofits, charities, local events to give back, whether that's money, in-kind advertising services, et cetera. I think we have our Random Acts of Kindness program, our Community Builders Awards. The more deeply we are embedded in the communities, the better that we do. We drive audience that way. We drive commercial relationships that way. And of course, it feels great. It's all the good stuff. So I think beyond the day-to-day journalism, beyond technology, which to a large extent is a commodity in terms of a basic news platform, it really is deep immersion in a community. And I think we need to get past this idea that this model cannot work. I think you need to believe. We always say, you've got to believe in the model, meaning that a community can sustain a decent-sized newsroom and a commercial team and can be an important part of strengthening the community and bringing it all together. So I just say deeply immerse yourself.
Jeff Elgie.
And by the way, Mike, I don't want to say anyone to think that this is easy. It requires tremendous rigor, tremendous ability to execute. That's what Jeff and his team have done remarkably well, right? But the opportunity is there if you take that rigor, if you do the data analysis, if you track everything you're doing, if you give the team the excitement and passion that the vision we have deserves, then success can be attained.
Jeff Elgie, founder and CEO, Richard Gingras, board chair of an amazing company, Village Media. Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.